Today, I want to talk to you about music licensing. Now, I get asked more than anything in the world from other artists and musicians how they can get their music placed on TV shows. And I get asked this because since 2004, I've been writing music specifically for TV, film, commercials, film and video game trailers. And during that time, I've had over 2,000 placements of my own songs on TV shows from American Idol to The Voice, commercials for companies like Skechers, Audi, Mazda, Verizon, for film trailers, for example, Disney's Cinderella, Ocean's 8, Amazon Prime's Jack Ryan series, which was just a Super Bowl commercial at the beginning of 2018. And the great thing about this career is that it allows you a lot of personal freedom. I've been able to, pursue other musical interests that I have, whether that be touring with other artists or producing albums, playing on sessions for artists and composers, just songwriting with great artists and songwriters without having to worry about the financial aspect of it. So it's been a great career. But as I've gotten further and further into my career, it seems like I get asked by virtually every artist, manager, musician, producer, publisher, record label individual about the process that I've used to generate all those placements. And so to answer that question, I wrote a book called The Four-Step Plan to Licensing Success. And it's a free book. You can click on the link below and download it. And the reason why I wrote this was primarily because as a young artist and a young musician growing up, I just wanted to get my songs heard. I played in bands for a long time, and I just wanted people to hear my music. When I first started getting my songs placed on TV shows, the financial aspect of it was wonderful. But even more fulfilling to me as an artist was being able to call my buddies back home and be like, hey, check out this show on Friday. It's going to have one of my songs. Or, go to the theaters and check out this movie. It's going to have one of my songs in it. And so I know firsthand the desire for musicians to get their songs heard. And music licensing is a great way to get your songs heard by millions of people. So the four-step plan is really a solid overview of the how of music licensing versus the what, right? So it's no secret that music licensing is a very profitable way to monetize your music. And since that's the case, the question would be, how come more artists and musicians aren't doing it or aren't doing it successfully? And what I've learned is that while a lot of musicians know what music licensing is, they don't know how to license their songs. They don't have an actual plan in front of them that takes them from point A to point B. They're knocking on the door, but some of them are even kicking the door, but they're just not realizing that it's really as simple as just grabbing the door handle, the doorknob, and turning it and walking in. A lot of musicians think that they're locked out of the licensing world, where in fact there's just a party going on inside, and there's loud music and a lot of people socializing, and they just don't hear the knocking. So what they've done is they've left the door unlocked, and all you have to do is turn that handle and walk on in. And that's why I wrote the four-step plan to licensing success. It's really to show you how to walk through that door and do it successfully. Now, the 4 steps to successfully license your music starts with step 1, which is just to build your catalog. And this sounds like common sense, but what I mean by this is just to write freely and without any reservation. All right. A lot of artists work under these preconceived notions that their songs have to be, this long, or they have to write in, this particular style or whatever. But what I really want to encourage you to do with this is to write the music that you're passionate about, without any reservation or feeling that you have to fit yourself within any certain, box or any particular confines. Okay. If you want to go into your studio in the morning and just write like a singer-songwriter track, then and you're in a rock band, feel free to write that track. There's always going to be a use for it. If you want to write a rock track, feel free to write that track. There's always going to be use for it. If you want to write an a cappella track, feel free to write that track. There's going to be a use for it. If you want to write a happy, Hawaiian ukulele track, write that. Just write freely, even if it doesn't fit, the particular artistic pursuit you're on. If you're in a band or you're, an artist pursuing one particular style of music, with licensing, you can write across so many different genres and have success because there's always going to be a use for that music. So continuously build your catalog, contribute to your catalog, create something every day, and write freely without any reservation. So that's step 1. The second step to successfully licensing your music is creating valuable content for the end user. And what I mean by this is creating the various alternate mixes and versions of your songs. And that includes, cut down mixes, 60-second, 30-second, 15-second mixes, stem mixes, as well as various alternate versions. So let me give you a couple examples of what alternate versions you could print of your music. If you have a vocal song, your main mix is obviously going to be the vocals with the music. Your alternate mix, or your first version that you're going to print, is going to be an instrumental mix. But you can dive in even further. You can easily create, 3, 4, 5 different mixes at least of your songs. So one thing you can do past the instrumental mix is, let's say your song is, the foundation of it is vocals, acoustic guitar, and then you've surrounded it with drums, bass, electric guitar, and some keyboards. You can mute the bass, mute the drums, mute the electric guitar, mute the keyboards, and just keep it vocals and acoustic guitar, and that can be considered your acoustic mix. Okay, let's say you in this particular song you have some really cool piano lines or synth lines that are really nice and add some nice melody. You can have it vocals, acoustic guitar, and then just the keyboard or synth line, and you can call that a stripped down mix. Okay, if you're an instrumentalist and you're writing instrumental music, your main mix is going to be just your main piece, but you can mute the melodic instrument and create a no melody mix. Then you can do the same thing. You can create stripped down mixes. You can create an acoustic mix, and sometimes you can actually even go in and completely rearrange some of the levels and create an alternate mix. And an example of this would be, let's say you have a track that's kind of heavy on the guitars, and you've got some keyboard stuff that's low. Well, what you can do is you can swap those levels, and you can create an alternate mix where it's more keyboard dominant and less heavy on the guitar. And that's actually worked quite well for me in the past. Stem mixes are always very important to include, especially if you're dealing with individuals who are placing your songs in commercials. Most of my commercial placements have always required the stem mixes, and they've always gone back and done some adjustments when I listen back to the commercial version versus what my actual main mix was. They're always a little bit different. So that's the second step, creating valuable content. Now, the third step is what I call mastering metadata. And this is so important. This is crucial to your success. Metadata is the information that's embedded with the actual audio file. Okay, and not every audio file can actually contain metadata. So that's very important to keep in mind. But it's the information that describes the track. So let me give you an example of metadata in its most basic form. If you are opening up your iTunes and let's say you have 1,000 songs in your iTunes catalog, and you are just in the mood to listen to Pink Floyd's Comfortably Numb, you have two options. Your first option is to scroll all the way down to P for Pink Floyd, then find Pink Floyd under all the artists you have that begin with P. Then find the album that Comfortably Numb is on, which would be The Wall. So you have to go scroll through their albums, find The Wall. And then in that album, then you have to go and scroll through and find, the track Comfortably Numb. So it's a bit of a process, especially if you have a lot of songs and a lot of artists in your catalog. Or you can just do the simple route, which is to go up into the search bar, type in the word comfortably, and every song that has the word comfortably in the title is going to show up. And chances are there might only be 4 or 5, and you can quickly click on Comfortably Numb and listen to it. So that's metadata in its most basic form. But now you always have to think of your end user. Okay, if your end user is dealing with a catalog of 100,000 or 200,000 songs or more, how do they find your song out of all those other ones? Well, that's where the metadata comes in. And the metadata is just the keywords that you type in to describe your song. And these could be keywords as simple as melodic, happy, rocking, upbeat, fun, summer, beachy, Hawaiian, ukulele. If you have a glockenspiel in it, you could say glockenspiel. Any word that you can think of that describes that song. Because if someone is trying to replace a song or find a song that's perfect for a particular scene, they're going to type in those keywords. Okay? Or if they're trying to replace a particular artist, let's say that they have a John Mayer song or an Adele song that they can't afford the licensing fees on, so they may type in John Mayer, Adele, and so if you have those two artists or any similar ones that your track sounds like in the metadata, chances of you showing up at the bottom of that funnel are greatly improved. All right. Now, metadata is a pretty involved process, and I cover this in the book. So I'm going to really encourage you to just scroll down and download the book, and you'll learn a lot more about metadata. That being said, the fourth step is getting your music heard. And this is the process of actually getting your songs into the hands of music supervisors, editors, music libraries, etc. And there are two paths that most musicians take. One is a path of failure, and the other one is a path of success in this process. The path of failure is what most musicians take, and this is the reason why most musicians fail with music licensing, because they approach it with the attitude of, here's my music, I don't have a lot of money, use my songs and make me some money. Or with the attitude of, here's my music, use my songs, and and that way I can get more followers and become famous. It's a very self-absorbed approach, and that's basically the same thing as someone sending you an email saying, hello, I don't really know you, but I know you have some extra cash on hand. I'm really hungry. Will you take me out to lunch tomorrow? Oh, by the way, you're buying. Right? If you read that email, you discard it immediately because it's ridiculous. That person's not bringing anything to the table, and they're just using you. Who wants to deal with someone like that? The successful approach is being a value-added service. All right, and this is so important in the approach to getting your music licensed. When you have created a decent-sized catalog, and you have a decent amount of music, and by a decent amount of music, I mean more than 3 or 4 songs. You have a catalog of music. You've created the valuable content. You've created all these great mixes and versions of the song that the end user can license from you quickly and easily. You've mastered metadata. All these tracks have metadata embedded in them so that they're easily searchable and licensable, right? And then you've reached out, letting the individual know, the music supervisor, the editor, the music library, whoever the end user is going to be, you're letting them know that you're providing this music, you're providing this service to them to make their lives easier because your music is easily searchable. You own the master and the sync rights, therefore your music is easily licensable, right? You see the difference here is you're becoming a value-added service. And anyone, if someone was to send you an email and say, hey, I have a really good business proposition for you, I think you'd be perfect for this, blah, 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 would you like to get together and meet tomorrow for lunch? Of course you'd say yes, right? And that's the difference. So it's the approach of being a value-added service. And again, this is a lot more involved, and I cover this in the book as well. But those are the 4 steps. Step 1, just building your catalog. Step 2, creating valuable content. Step 3, mastering metadata. Step 4, getting your music heard. How to actually become a value-added service and take your music from step A to step B. So that's what the 4-step plan to licensing success entails. All right, so now that leads us to the $1 million question, which is, can you make $100,000 or can you make 6 figures a year writing music? And the answer is yes, you absolutely can. But will you make it the first year that you're doing this? And the answer is no. And I don't say that to be discouraging. I just want to be very factual about this. The reason why that's not going to happen is because of the amount of time it takes for your royalties to cycle through, which generally is going to take about 9 to 12 months, depending on when your placement falls within the reporting quarter. Now, you're going to receive your upfront licensing fees generally within 90 days, okay? But let's say, for example, you got a placement on a TV show that aired on January 1st. You really can't expect to receive the money on the back end or your royalty until, sometime in September or October, whenever your PRO, which in America is ASCAP, BMI, and CSEC, pays out for around the 3rd quarter. That being said, the 4-step plan that I've created over the years that I've been doing this is really focused on consistent placements. All right, and it's great to get the big placements throughout the year; those are awesome. But I really focus on consistent placements, and the reason why is because consistent placements equals consistent income. All right, so as you add to your catalog, you're just going to be increasing your opportunities for placements. Okay, where let's say you start, this first year and you're getting a placement every, say once a month. as you continue to add your catalog, as you continue to burn all the multiple versions of your tracks, as you really focus in on your metadata, and then as you continually build relationships with music supervisors, editors, the individuals who work at the music library that you're going to work with, that's just going to increase your opportunities for placements. It's just going to naturally give you more and more and more placements over time. And then before you know it, you're going to go from having one placement a month to a placement every 2 weeks to a placement every week. And then next thing you know, you got 3 or 4 placements every week. So can you make $100,000 a year doing this? Absolutely, you can, very easily. But you have to follow an actual strategy that works. And hope is not a strategy. Just hoping that putting your music out there, that's not going to take you from point A to point B. You might get lucky once or twice, but it's not going to follow. You're not going to be able to follow that consistently and create consistent placements. The 4-step plan to licensing success is a strategy that's I've used for many years. A lot of other people have used it very successfully. It's proven it works. So I really want to encourage you to just download the book. If you're really interested in doing this, download the book, start putting it into practice. And then when you reach your 100th placement, I want you to shoot me an email and let me know about it. I've had people who've gone through this process hit 100 placements actually in less than a year. That's someone who really put a lot of time and energy into it and was really focused. But the process works. So shoot me a message when you hit your 100th placement. I wish you the best of luck. I'm excited to hear your music on TV, and best of luck to you. I'll talk to you soon.